Hello, my friends. It's the Bozo and the Beret here again, spouting nonsense. I promised you that I would talk about bugging out and bugging in from a survivalist prepping, or whatever you want to call it these days. You can call me a conspiracy theorist if you like. But yesterday I did a 26-minute video on bugging out and made the point that it's an absolute last resort. And I reiterate that here now. Whatever I said in that video applies. Anyway, so if you're not going to bug out because it's a last resort, then what you're going to do, you're going to, if a war starts, or if there's another pandemic and all the mutants start flapping around again and buying up all the bog roll in the supermarkets and generally reacting like absolute cretins, which they did, and they'll do it again. So what are you going to do? Well, where are you? I mean, I'm in a rural environment. That makes it a little bit easier for me. If you live in a city, then bugging out could be out of the question. There could be roadblocks everywhere. They're going to stop you going anywhere. So you're going to have to prepare to stay in your safe place, your home. We'll go into how it's very complicated. It's taken me years. And I've had advice from some of the most amazing people as well. As I said in an earlier video, I've stood on the shoulders of giants in that regard. And this list is by no means exhaustive, and it's not mine. I don't purport to be an expert, because we know what experts have done to us. An X is a has-been, and a spurt is a drip under pressure. So it brings me to a little story. When the lockdowns, I never obeyed the lockdowns. I used to bugger off into the mountains. And one time I had to cross a border, and there was a border guard and a big boom gate. I was on my motorcycle, and a big boom gate. We weren't allowed out, and we weren't allowed to cross borders and all that entails. But I got caught by a border guard, and I knew I was in trouble because it was huge fines and summary arrest. I thought, what am I going to do? I'm stuck on this mountain road in the middle of nowhere trying to cross a border. So I flipped up my visor on the motorcycle and stopped about 30 meters away from the barrier, and the guards on the barrier started to walk towards me. So I flipped up my visor and started coughing really, really badly. And I just told them, look, guys, don't come near me. I need to get home. I think I've got COVID. And it was like, these mutants just stopped in their tracks, walked back to the gate and lifted it up and waved me through. These are the things that you have to think of on the spur of the moment. Because I could have well been arrested in that particular, especially in Australia, because Australia went way over the top. The cowardice here in this country was off the charts. Anyway, so, yeah, it's going to be difficult. You're going to have to bug in if you're in a city, unless you get out early, which is unlikely, because you need to. You need to be situationally aware. Watch what's going on. Watch the zeitgeist. Watch your six, we used to say, when I was working with the Australian security forces, special forces, in fact, in 2003. Watch your six. It's an American term. But anyway, why bug in? Right. Well, for a start off, you know your own place. You know where everything is. If you're like me and you've planned, you've got everything you need right there. to hand. More importantly, you know the topography and the geography of your local region. You really do know that, and you know where resources are, and where you can perhaps get food if you need it. You know, importantly, all those people that are your existential enemies. And in this little village here, I'm quite happy that most people hate me. It doesn't. I know they hate me, but they're also worried about my skills, so they leave me alone. But I know that, and knowing your enemy is very important. My next door neighbour is wonderful. We share all the resources. I've got friends around here whom I know, and we share things. We barter. Well, it's not even any bartering anymore. We don't even do that. I give veggies, they give meat. I give them eggs, they give me respect. They know that I'm there for them, and that I know that they're there for me. So that's very important. That bugging in is your first resort, but you've got to apply the KISS principle. Another little acronym: keep it simple, stupid. There's an old one that we used a lot in the military. KISS. You want to survive whatever may arise in this unstable world. Keep it simple, stupid. Maslow's hierarchy of human needs. Physiological. Water and food are at the bottom of a pyramid. To reach the top of the pyramid, each stage has to be in place. Otherwise, you cannot progress to the next stage. So you need physiological needs are water and food. Without those, particularly water, without those, you will not survive onto the next level of Maslow's hierarchy. Shelter. Home. You're at home. Home is where the heart is. Home is where my dogs are. So home is important. Security. The home gives you security from the weather. You can lock yourself in. You know, I know my home. I know my garden. I know when somebody's at the gate. Not many people come through my gate because there's big warning signs all over the place. They think I'm a nutter. Maybe I am. I like being a nutter. Security. Yep, there you go. Good home. Lock the doors, lock the windows. And you've got resources at home, haven't you? Everyone's got resources at home. And if you plan, and this takes a lot of work, but you've got to believe that you might need it. Things are not good, folks. You need love. You need friendship. Those things are important to move on up the Maslow's hierarchy pyramid. You need those things. Well, I've got friends. You only need a few friends, and I can call on them, and they'll call on me, make sure I'm all right. My next door neighbour's great. I've got hunting friends. I've got friends that are mechanically gifted. I've got all sorts of friends that we share our resources and we share our skills. And I've learned a lot of skills from those friends, not mine. And what I'm going to talk to you about is not mine. You need good self-esteem, something before you can move on up the pyramid. You need to have good self-esteem. You need to have the respect of others, those that are important to you anyway. And you gain self-esteem by doing stuff that's challenging. So at this top part of the pyramid is self-actualization, doing it yourself. Creativity. You've got to be creative. You've got to plan. Morality, you've got to have some morals. There's very, very little of that about these days. With all this woke culture that's going around, morals have been lost. Millions have died and nobody cares. The zombies, the mutants out there don't care about the people that have been injured or have died due to mRNA gene therapy poisons. They don't care. They don't even want to know. They don't want to research and speak to the people that do know. Problem solving, you're going to need that. So you've got to be at the top of that pyramid, and each one, water, food, shelter, love and friendship, self-esteem, that will lead you to the top. Now, you're not fully protected. You never will be. If the balloon goes up and Armageddon creeps in, nobody's going to be safe. And I agree with that. Some people might say, well, what's the point? Because you and I can be safer than the mutants. So how do we go about doing that? My God, it's 11 minutes so far. How do we go about doing that? We have to be pragmatic. You have to think pragmatism and practicality all the time. And this does not happen overnight. It's taken me, with the advice from friends and colleagues, at least 5 years to get to the stage where I feel reasonably safer than the general population out here. Water. So I'll use my examples. Where do I get water from? Well, rainwater. I collect rainwater for a start off. I've got probably about 40,000 litres of rainwater collected on the roof to my house. I've got a well. It's 80 feet deep, but it's an inexhaustible supply of extremely well-filtered water. And I can get it up. I've got a pump to get it up. If you're in a situation unlike mine, where you don't have those resources, then if things get bad, you need to fill your bathtub. I did. At the start of all of this, I kept my bathtub full. Because I turned, if there's no electricity, my house doesn't have a water pump. So I filled my bathtub and I collect water through that. You can do that. Fill your sinks, fill your bathtubs, fill jerry cans. If things get bad, you want to survive for a few days or a few weeks, you need to fill your bathtub with water. I'm fortunate here. Food. The important thing about food is that it needs to be non-perishable. You need lots of it. You need a cache. I've got a big cache of food, as I mentioned yesterday. I got at least 6 months' supply of food here, should anything go wrong for me or the world. This highly unstable zeitgeist we're living through. Like people had to live through the First and Second World Wars. Very, very frightening zeitgeists, just like this one. We are at war. We are at war. Believe it or not. Now, in order to do that, you need non-perishable foods, dried foods, tinned foods, sealed containers. What else is good food that you can keep? If you store it right, flour will keep right. Rice will keep well. Tinned fish, tinned meats, all of those things will keep well. Tinned vegetables. Refrigeration. Now, I'll come on to that later because refrigeration and freezing are not something that, if the power system fails, as it already has in Europe. We know about that now. I mean, the Spain and Portugal's power system went down 100% for a couple of days. Now, it could be longer than that, so what are you going to do? You'll lose everything. Even if you've stored your food, you could lose it. So, refrigerate. These were the two of the things I thought of first. Is how am I going to store the food that is perishable? And how am I going to keep refrigeration? And how am I going to keep my freezers going? Got 3 freezers full of food. Don't come round here. There'll be plenty of mutants coming round here. I'm ready for them too. Shelter. Well, you've got the roof over your head. You need to maintain it. You need to keep warm. Warmth. How can you stay warm? Well, some things you can do, like I did. I built a heat exchange unit on the side of my house, like a great big greenhouse, and it runs the whole length of my north-facing veranda, and it's completely sealed in, and it gets really warm in there, and I just open the doors. And in the summer, it gets really hot in there, and I open the doors, and it creates a reverse. The heat rises out of it and drags cool air in the windows. So there's one way. You can think of some sort of heat exchange unit where you can collect sunlight. Hot water. Well, you can use fires for hot water. I can boil water. If I need hot water, I can boil it on my rocket stove. And a rocket stove runs on twigs from the garden. I've got an endless supply of twigs all around me. You may not have. But, there are other ways you can keep water hot. And some of those might be these new U-Butte camping type water heaters, instant hot water, running off gas bottles. Now, you can resupply gas bottles, even now, but I keep spares. 2 spares. That's another thing I'll come on to. So you can heat water with these. Again, I'm not going to go into it. If you want to see what a rocket stove is, go on YouTube. If you want to see a portable heater, Google it. Water heater. They cost virtually nothing to run. A gas bottle lasts me 8 months. It costs $40 max at the moment. I've got spares. Wood burning stove. I've got a big one. I've got 2 wood burning stoves. One is actually a cooker. One of the old Rayburn cookers where you stick wood in there and it turns it into an oven and a cooker. Plus I've got my wood burning stove which I can boil a kettle on. Wood burning stoves, you need wood. If you're in a rural environment, that's reasonably, especially around here, collect your own firewood. That's what I do. Off friends' properties. Friends. People who know what's going on. Enlightened folk. Not the mutants. They think it's all going to be fine. Light. Like it or not, we all need lighting. You've got to think about at least 3 sources of light. We'll come on to that as well. But light, you need to think about batteries, torches, lamps, candles. Candles are your thing of last resort, but I've got all 3. I've got kerosene lamps. I've got those beautiful, great big petrol lamps that run on pressure and make a lot of noise and are very, very bright. I've got those, and I've got fuel to run them. And enough wicks to last me for years. A wick is the thing that creates the flame, that creates the light. Months and months worth of candles. You can get all of these things. You need to collect them. Energy, right. if you in our society, we're used to having endless supplies of energy. But if the grid goes down like it did in Spain, what are you going to do? The answer is do it yourself. You'd be surprised what one 400-watt solar panel can do. Double them up and you've got two. Get some batteries. You don't need some expensive $15,000, $20,000 10 kilowatt hours of energy to get by, just to get by. Batteries are cheap. You can buy AGM batteries. You can buy car batteries and link them all together in parallel, and then get a controller, and then get an inverter, and boom, you're powered up. Build it yourself. It's the industry would have you believe that it's very, very complicated. They would tell you that because that's what they want. And that's what the government will tell you as well, because it's all about making money. The last time the government had its hand in green efforts was the Pink Bats, the programme that was instigated on every house in Australia. The amount of young people that died putting in pink bats in hot roofs and stapling through electrical wiring. I think it was about 4 young people died. It was a big scandal, and it wasn't done properly. And now they're offering batteries. Subsidised batteries. That'll go the same way. There will be fires and all sorts. Poor quality. Whenever the government gets it, do it yourself. There are ways. And as I say, two modern panels on your roof, that gives you 800 watts. That's nearly 1 kilowatt. That'll run your telly, your freezer, your fans to keep you cool if you need them, microwave, washing machine. It won't run a hot water tank, but we'll come on to that. Or we've already mentioned, if you want hot water, you can get instant hot water. Try that. That's what I've done. When I want hot water, I turn a tap and it comes on. But it only uses the gas while I've got the tap on. Cooling. Over here, people talk about air conditioning as being a necessity. Come on. If you're talking about survival mode, then air conditioning is out of the question. There are very, very few. You need a really, really large solar system to run an air conditioner, or even my hot water tank. You know, it's 200 litres in the hot water tank. Turn that on and the electricity meter starts taking off. So turn the electricity meter off and go solar. But do it yourself. Cooking. You need to be able to cook. I've got 3 ways to cook. 4 ways. Microwave. I've got a turbo oven that runs off the solar. I can't run the kettle off the solar because most kettles are 2,500 watts. And that'll drop your battery storage down in no time, even if your inverter could handle 2,500 watts. Kettles, electric kettles, are out of the question. Gas or wood heating on a rocket stove, boil a kettle in no time. Great, get used to it. I've also got the wood burning cooker oven. Very, very lucky to have that. It was in the house when I came here. Maybe somebody up there likes me and prepared me. You can cook on a rocket stove. You can cook on gas. If you've got gas, keep gas in reserve. A big gas bottle for me will last me well over a year. Maybe more, maybe 2. And I've got 2 of them. Resupply. How are you going to resupply? Are you going to go in the car? Go somewhere in the car to get your resupply? Are you going to go on a motorbike? are you going to go on a push bike to resupply? If you're going to resupply firewood, you're going to need a trailer and a car with fuel. And you need the tools to do it yourself. All of those things have to be thought about. Resupply. Have all three ready. So as if you end up having to use your bicycle, but be ready to use your bike. I ride my bike every day. Into town, get a few supplies, milk. I don't need eggs because I've got chooks. Another thing that was suggested to me by somebody who's smarter than me. They're easy, they're great. They're bloody annoying. Shit all over the place and wreck the garden, but hell, they give me loads of eggs. Hello, Judith. First aid. You need, as with bugging out, you need to be able to prepare for the worst. And if you hurt yourself, you need bandages. And I've got a remote area first aid kit. I would suggest that to you. There are a number of organisations that sell remote area first aid kits. Don't try and build your own, because if you go to the chemist shop and start trying to build your own first aid kit, you'll be short of $1,000 in no time at all. But you can get good ones online that are from suppliers that put them together for you. Food. Chooky eggs. Perfect food. They're always laying. My garden's huge. Don't even need to feed them if I didn't want to, but I do. I get them scratch mix. Bags of that, but if that became short, they'd have to survive in the garden, and they do. They've got a feeder in their hutch. As soon as I let them out in the morning, they're around the garden looking for snails, looking for worms. There's always stuff for them to eat, and they give me eggs. I make quiche, which I trade with the neighbour for something else, maybe even just a cup of tea and a chat. Veggies. In a rural environment, or even you can grow your own veggies. Tomatoes, potatoes, pumpkins. I tend to grow staples that I can store for a long time, because things go on and off the boil, as you know. But my next stage is to build a large plot in the backyard, and fence it off so the chooks don't get in it, and plant a wider variety of vegetables that will grow in the area that I've got. It's fairly shady, so I need to sort of work out which vegetables will grow in a shady spot. It's fairly moist because it's under trees. But that's the next step in the prepping. But I've already got more potatoes that I can poke a stick at, pumpkins. Silver beet is easy to grow. Anyway, you need to think about those things, because we need more than simply just meat. If you're serious about this, you're going to need weapons. Now, I'm not talking about weapons that are illegal. I'm talking about weapons that will enable you, at the end of the day, if you're not going to do it in the city, but enable you to get food, hunt for food, particularly in a rural environment. So, bows, traps, those sorts of things. In Australia, firearms are out of the question most of the time, except for farmers and people like that. They're illegal, so most people don't have firearms. They took those away years ago, all part of the master plan to emasculate Australia. They're gone. So you're going to have to be innovative and think of ways to catch food. Roadkill. I'm not too proud to stop and pick up a dead kangaroo that I know's only been lying at the side of the road for a day and throw it in the back of the car. Because if it's not too badly damaged, it's great meat. And the dogs will eat it anyway. Hares, rabbits, you catch them with snares. But, I mean, you often find, I found a hare once that had been roadkill. I brought it home and hung it up for a few days outside. Made jugged hare, made a curry. Fed it to my daughter. She went mental when I told her what it was. But it was lovely. You're just going to have to think of these things. I'm not, too proud to stop with a big butcher's knife and a cleaver and take the back legs off a kangaroo and throw them in the back of the car. No way. And the tail. My neighbour makes a great roux tail soup. For sure. And the trucks that run by on the road, which is a couple of k's away, are always killing animals. And I know how long it's been there. Anyway, that's another story. Transport. Think about it. You're going to have transport. Either it's Shanks's pony, which is walking, but that's not practical if your food sources are a long way away, or if the firewood and stuff is a long way away. Firewood, as I've already said, enough twigs to run my rocket stove all around here, and it'll do very well. Look it up. Push bike, motorbike, car, trailer, if you can, and the fuel to keep them going. That could be a problem. Tools. Invest in good tools. A friend once told me this: only buy useful things. And that's what I do. And now I never waste my money on anything that's not useful. All my money gets spent on things that will enhance my survivability. So, tools, welding equipment, learn to weld, simple joinery, get as much metal together as you can, go to the local tip, get metal, costs virtually nothing. Get wood and timber from the bush. If you like, I built a greenhouse with timber from the bush. My friend built his home with timber from the bush. Learn those skills. Axes, saws, chainsaws. I've got 6. Actually 5, I lost one. Lost one camping in the sand. Anyway. They need fuel as well. So everything has to be step down, redundant. So you've always got a fallback plan. Hygiene. In all wars, more soldiers die from disease and malnutrition than ever get shot or bombed. First World War, trench foot. Many diseases, scurvy, hypothermia, just plain food poisoning. So just remember that hygiene is very important. So you've got to keep yourself clean. How are you going to do that? How are you going to keep your clothes clean? Well, you might even end up washing them in the bathtub if you've got the water. You might be able to shower under instant hot water system, which costs virtually nothing. Keep yourself clean. Keep your clothes clean. A solar system will run a washing machine. Easy. Mine does. So what if your washing machine breaks down? Do your Dobie, what we used to call it in the army, do your Dobie in the sink. Wring it out, hang it out to dry. The side of my house with the heat exchange unit works as a drying room as well, no matter what the weather. A very important thing. Look at all the lice and the fleas that just killed soldiers left, right and centre, and the diseases that killed soldiers. Schistosomiasis, malaria, syphilis, gonorrhea, all of these diseases that killed people in the First and Second World War. You don't get a medal. There's no medals for catching syphilis. Freezers. How are you going to power a freezer? Well, a freezer uses a lot of energy, but it doesn't use it long term. When my freezers switch on, for a second or two, the solar systems object for a second or two, and then they start. It's just that startup phase where they use a lot of amperage. But once they're running, they use very little amperage and they switch off. You know, one of my freezers I've got runs on 0.7 of an amp, but its startup load's probably about 1500 watts, or maybe at probably 1.5 amps. So it gives the system a bit of a kickstart, but then it's fine once it's running. It's only a split second. Again, I thought, how am I going to, if I go hunting, how are you going to keep the meat? What are you going to do? Hang it in the shed when it's 40 degrees outside? No way. It'll get fly blown in no time. And, I'm not Bear Frills. I don't want to be eating rotten meat or sleeping inside the belly of a dead animal just to keep warm. Got to be realistic. Don't be romantic and... Bear Grylls has done some amazing things, but some of the other stuff's absolute bullshit. Most of it is. If you live in Australia and you're bugged in, what happens if there's a fire? You need to be able to fight fires because nobody's coming to your rescue. If they know you're bugged in anyway, they won't care. If there's a war going on, they won't care. So, fire extinguishers in the house all the time, ready to get at. Just in case. Burning lots of timber. Some could fall out of the fire, maybe. Anyway, you need something to fight fires. Around the property, I've got a fairly big property here. Fairly big by urban standards. About an acre. So I've got a firefighting pump outside, and it'll reach every area of the yard, and it'll reach that it's there, and I check it all the time, keep it covered up. In the summer, I start it up, make sure it runs, and then I start it once a month just to make sure it runs. Always starts first time. Modern engines are great, and it will put out quite a big fire. I've got about 50 meters of hose, so firefighting pump. If you're in my situation, test it, make sure it kicks out plenty of water. Water supply, well, I already said, even if there was a drought, I've still got 40,000 litres of water on the property, and also the well that I can pump from if needed. Companions and love. Well, where do I get that from? Where do you get it from? You may have a missus. Good. Yeah, you may have a mister. I don't care. I've got my 3 dogs. And seriously, they are all I need. They're more important to me than any human alive. Sorry, they are. It's just the way the world has turned. They're always there for me, and I'm always there for them. Feeding them is always my priority. Can I get enough food to feed the dogs? I can fast for days and days and days. I find it easy and I do it. So feeding the dogs is really important. They wouldn't understand fasting. But there you go. That's them. You do need companions. And they give me endless amusement, endless love. Oh, and exercise, because I have to walk them, as well as ride my bike. Security. You got to know where the gates are. You got to be able to lock them. Lock your shed if people know you've got stuff in there that's like chainsaws, motorbikes, stuff like that. When push comes to shove, and it may, I hope it doesn't, but it may, and people know that you've got resources, I'll tell you what, history has shown what will happen, especially if you're a pariah and unvaccinated like me. They're not going to say, oh, well done, you got this right. They're going to say, how come your lights are still on? How come you've still got heating? How come you've got food? The supermarket's been closed down. There's no food in the supermarket. It's burnt down. How come you've still got food? They won't say, oh, well done, you've prepped. They're going to come looking. So be ready for that. Keep your gates locked. Keep your shed locked. Keep your house locked. All of those things have taken me 5 years to get in place. And I'm still not happy with it because nobody's safe these days. If something goes wrong, I'm just safer. And I accept that. And I didn't get to this point by myself either. I got it by listening to pragmatic people with skills. And that's what you need to do if you're serious about preparing. And people laugh at preppers, but I don't anymore. Everything you do must be at least doubly redundant. So let's take one example, water. Rainwater, supposing that there's no rain, supposing we're in drought. Where are you going to get your water from? Okay, so save it in the bath. I've got a river just about 1 kilometre away. I can go and get it. Fill up there if I needed it. I've got my well. But if things went really, really bad, I've got to figure out a way of pumping the water out of my well if the electricity goes down. Because my solar electricity will not power the massive pump that's down 80 foot in the ground to bring it back up. But there are other ways of getting it up. Don't you worry about that. So, back to preparation and planning prevents piss poor performance. Keep it simple, stupid, and be safe when you are, if you ever have to, bug in. All the best to you. Thanks to all of those people that taught me so much about this. And there's more out there. My list is not exhaustive, I can assure you. Anyway, from the bozo in a beret, with his 3 shite hounds. Cheerio till next time.